Welcome to the Diversity Pivot Podcast. I'm your host, Julie Kratz, and this season we will be unpacking real trends, hot topics in the workplace around allyship and inclusion. Our goal is that each week you leave with tangible tools, information, practical strategies that you can take back to allies at your organization. Let's dig in to this week's topic. How does DEI fit in with the rise of AI, artificial intelligence? So, listeners, I am so curious about this. My take on it is all of the talk of ChatGPT and AI replacing human jobs. And what does it mean when the large amount of creators creating AI are male and not a very diverse background? What does that mean for the rest of us? This technology was not created by and for. Lots of interesting opportunities. So I discovered ChatGPT, one of the artificial intelligence AI tools, this time last year. And as a business owner, I was like, oh, this is weird. I was like, I could never use something like that to do my writing. This is about human-centered, sensitive topics, diversity, allyship, etc. So I dabbled with it. And what I found, for me personally, is that it's really helped me write, synthesize data, gather my thoughts. So, it can help create an outline, a summary, sometimes an interesting headline idea that I play with. So it's not like I'm copying and pasting it into my writing or talks, but it does help me brainstorm and think. And if I'm in a writer's rut, it can help me get through it. So I think about AI as complementing our existing diverse labor market. In just a few years' time, Morgan Stanley recently estimated that AI technology will have a 4.1 trillion economic effect, and it's going to impact nearly half our labor force globally because it's going to change input costs, automate tasks, shift the way that we process information. So this is a reality. This is like the internet boom is coming. We can't stop it. But how do we make sure that it's done inclusively is the question. And so I'd really like us to think about the impact on frontline workers. We know automation deeply affects low-skilled jobs, and frontline workers tend to be of more diverse backgrounds. A lot of that has to do with socioeconomic factors. Folks of color tend to be overrepresented in these roles. Education rates, because the cost of education tends to impact. So those historically marginalized groups, people of color, women, those with disabilities, tend to be overrepresented in frontline work where AI has the ability to automate and potentially replace those jobs the most. So really think about the impact of that. And think about we're kind of at this pendulum. Think about the rise and fall. DEI went through this over the last few years. Everyone's all in, and then they're all out, and then we kind of balanced out and stabilized somewhere in the middle, which is where I'd like us to stay. AI is at a similar pivot point. It's this continuum of technical skills and human skills on one side, and there's really an opportunity to counterbalance. AI can help us with technical skills, but it's far less likely to replace human skills. So if we lean too much towards technical skills, we're going to miss out on the complementary human skills that really are critical to make AI work. So what are some examples? What can AI not duplicate from a human being? Well, it's pretty hard for technology to process emotions. It's really, really hard for technology to have a growth mindset. They're just taking in the data. It's kind of that garbage in, garbage out. So you have to be careful about what data your tools are consuming. As AI, if you have a fixed mindset of AI, it's going to replace my job, instead of a growth mindset of I can keep up and learn new technologies and new things, have a growth mindset that's going to help me do my job, much like I had to go through that change process on my own. It's just being open to that bumbling and stumbling with that technology. But we're less likely to have, AI replace us with that growth mindset. And emotional agility, I think Susan David's work on emotional agility is so important, especially now with the rise of technology. It's really hard for robots to read emotions, and our emotions are clues on what might be going right, what might be going wrong. So if we feel anger, if we feel sadness, if we feel overwhelmed, those are all cues that we need to be paying attention to in our bodies, and certainly something that's really important that AI cannot duplicate. And also AI can't empathize. It's hard for humans to do this, let alone robots, but it's about taking on the different perspective. So I like to ask myself the question, if I had a different lived experience of someone else, what would that maybe be like? How could I learn about that experience if I haven't experienced it myself? And you're not likely to get a good response from an AI tool on that one. Vulnerability. AI is kind of designed with definite certainty, known responses. And occasionally it might tell you, I can't do that. My limitations of my design. But people are attracted to vulnerability, and that's not something a robot or AI can duplicate. Take it, share our weaknesses or opportunities. What about me makes me human? Vulnerability makes us human. We gravitate towards people that show their true selves, the not so good parts along with maybe the great parts. Not being afraid of our weaknesses or mistakes or failures, saying, I don't know, I don't understand that yet, which I love as an allyship word, yet. We can really do a lot if we just all embrace the yet and the paradox. These can be both and situations. AI could potentially have a negative impact on diversity because of the reasons we talked about, but it also could have a really profound impact on highlighting the human skills that we need to coexist and make AI work. So organizations, don't forget about the human skills as you embed AI tools in your organization. We will need leaders that are empathetic, vulnerable, emotionally intelligent, manage change and uncertainty, have that growth mindset to be successful long term. Thank you for listening to the Diversity Pivot podcast. My hope is that you walked away with a tangible tool, insight, or information that you can share with other allies on the journey. If you liked this week's episode, please leave us a review. Your feedback means a tremendous amount to us. We'll be back next week with another hot topic.